In front of me is a poorly drawn floor plan on which I'm going to build a lighting diagram to show you how my cinematographer and I achieved the look of a commercial that I recently wrote and directed. Jack Ohrman, my DP, he shot this on the Canon C70 with Atlas Orion anamorphic lenses. So here we have a lecture hall. I don't know if you can tell, these squares are chairs. Up the front there are two big blackboards. Along the side are four big windows. The sun is over here during our whole shoot. Now, in the original script, the intent was that the camera would be facing a professor, and the camera will pan around to reveal that the audience is empty except for one single student, who I think we put in the fourth row in the end. The idea is that she is able to have a class all to herself because she's actually on Khan Academy or some online learning program. It forced us to think about lighting the entire space so that we could pretty much look anywhere, not see any equipment, although that proves challenging when you're doing the initial lighting. Once the lighting's set, you're pretty much set for the whole day, and there's very little that you need to change. So let's go through what we did. I have these little cute drawings of lights. So the first thing that we wanted to do was light our hero. We were very lucky that there was actually a projector mounted right above this seat, so we were able to actually rig straight from this projector on the ceiling. We put a Cardellini clamp on our light, and the light that we used was an F22C with a grid on it. And I initially mounted it like this, facing down towards the actor. Then I realized that that's pretty silly because the light should be motivated from the window, so I switched it around. So we have this key light with the grid to control the spill. We want to control the light because in my head, this scene was in a dark auditorium and she was in a pool of light. These windows, we were lucky enough that they had motorized blinds, so we could bring them all down or all up, and then there was a sheer blind as well. So at the start of the day, Jack and I had to decide what we wanted to do with these windows, and I wanted us to have it be a dark auditorium, but Jack very correctly noticed that it just looked way prettier if we had the motivation of the sunlight from outside. If we had more crew and more equipment, we'd stick a light outside and blast it through the window. We'd probably have 4 lights, one for each window, but we didn't have that option this time. It was just a crew of 2, essentially. It was just Jack and I until our friend Antonio arrived to help with sound and everything else that we needed help with. But for setup, it was just Jack and I. So yeah, we have this key on our hero, but we needed to up the ambient level in the whole space. So we shot a Aputure Nova just on the ground and just pointed it up into the ceiling, and that was able to lift the level of pretty much everything. Okay, so we have this now. We need to also light our professor, who's drawing a diagram, a graph on the blackboard. The idea that we had to make it lightweight and out of the shot was that we would shoot a 1200X with a spotlight. We wouldn't hit him directly, but we would hit a bounce board that we would rig just out of frame above where the professor would be. However, we didn't have the right spotlight mount, so the 1200X needs a spotlight max. So us not having the correct spotlight mount meant that this 1200X had way less output than what we expected from it. The lens in the spotlight maybe wasn't narrow enough. I don't think we had the 19-degree lens. I think it was the 26-degree lens. So there was also that. We were losing a lot of the actual output. And so we'd have this light going into this surfboard bounce from back here. We realized that it wasn't quite powerful enough, so I ended up walking this light all the way down to pretty much just behind camera. I ended up adding an extra little bounce. We were still kind of losing him on the shadow side, so we actually ended up having the 4x bounce here to just like kind of kick up a little bit more light. But this is definitely not to scale, but anyway. So we had bounce board getting a little bit of extra fill on the professor so that when he turned around, we don't lose his performance at all. And It looks nice. And so then we're able to, with the camera, face both ways. The idea was to do a pan or a whip pan during the scene, but we ended up not using it in the final edit. When the professor is at the blackboard, he's drawing with some chalk. To give it more focus, Jack had me rig a 60X, which is just a little aperture light, and just with the barn doors on the front of the 60X, was able to shape this little slash of light onto the blackboard. We actually ended up also sticking a little MC light underneath to sort of extend this slash. It was an illusion, but it looked really natural. And also, we actually added an MC on a little arm pointing into the pizza box to try to kick up a little bit more light into him. I think Jack ended up, when we were facing this way, he called for another MC light to be hidden in the light in the background, so we had control over it. When we came in for single on the hero, we brought the bounce in here. Actually, we did the shiny side. We used the shiny side of the bounce board to add a little bit of fill to lift the shadows on this side of her face. So we're pretty dark. One thing that I forgot to mention was we added a flag to cut some of the light from the F-22C that was hitting the chairs around the student. And it created this vignette effect in camera, which you can see here in this behind the scenes footage. And then you can see in the final product. Here it is.
We find the slope of the tangent line, which we can also call the instantaneous rate of change. The derivative gives us the sensitivity of a function to a change in input. Yes?
Could you repeat that?
The derivative gives us...
What if you controlled the classroom? Take charge of your learning with Khan Academy.
The slope of the tangent line, which you could also view as the instantaneous...
Thanks to Lightbulb Rentals for supplying the equipment, and to Ava Bardakos and Bill Holman for starring in it, and to Antonio Lucci and Anna Brewer for all of your help, and thanks to Jack Ohrman for making it look so damn pretty. And thanks for watching.